Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast. My name is Andy. I'm the CEO and I'm the founder of East Durham Veterans Trust. And we're doing this podcast series called Mindset Mystery for Veterans, where we're talking about different theories that we can relate to veterans. And it's also about psychoeducation and how we can help and support people to understand mental health and where it comes from, what happens with it, and why we struggle so much with it, really. That's one of the main things. This is episode 1. I've done an introduction that's already on our podcast list that everyone can view and watch. But this is episode 1. Episode 1 today, what we're going to talk about is conditioning. I think this is a massive thing, especially with veterans in the veteran community. And not many people realise it until we start talking about it and really get into the depths of conditioning. You know, what is conditioning? Where does it come from? Conditioning first come out from a theorist called Pavlov, Ivan Pavlov. I do believe it was the late 1800s that he came out with the theory of conditioning and how everyone's conditioned a certain way. I was conditioned, you were conditioned, whoever's watching this, everyone's been conditioned. We're all conditioned by our parents for a start when we're in childhood, and we're all growing up. Being potty trained, that's part of conditioning. We can call it potty training, but we're actually conditioning someone not to wet themselves, or not to crap themselves. We're conditioning them to use the toilet. That is conditioning. You're conditioning somebody to do something, and you have that all the way through your childhood. You have conditions put on you, from going to school, from being good, behaving yourself, doing what you're told, put the washing in the washing basket, eat your tea, eat your dinner, make sure, we watch it on TV, eat your 5 a day. That's all conditioning. Everyone's been conditioning. And with conditioning, what comes with it as well is a set of rewards and punishes. And we'll get onto them a little bit further on. Conditioning was then redone again by another guy called Skinner. That was done where he did some experiments with rats, and this is where I can really relate it towards veterans and being in service myself. If you can imagine, you're growing up, you're being conditioned by your school teachers, by your parents, by your family, by your loved ones, by your friends. All these different people are conditioning you to be a certain way. Being conditioned to like a certain football team, to like a certain sport, to like a certain computer game. All these different things from your friends, from your family, like I've already said, potty training, all the way up to going to school, conditioning, you must do well in your exams. All these different things are all conditioning that people are trying to do to you. So you're 16, 17, you've had that conditioning. And why I believe that veterans struggle so badly is because when they go from that lifestyle, 16, 17, 18, normally when you join the forces, obviously you can join them a lot later these days, but 16, 17, 18, you've gone from that environment of being conditioned by your parents, and you go into conditioning by the military. Day 1, week 1, you walk in, you're getting shouted and screamed at. You must shave every day. You're conditioning you. You must have a shave every day. You must go and get your hair cut short. I remember a guy walking in with my basic training. He had hair down to his ears, and the sergeant turned around to him straight away and said, "You need 3 haircuts." And off he went, and he came out with the skinhead. He was being conditioned to have his hair a certain way. We conditioned to do as we told. We conditioned by the screaming and shouting and following orders to do as you're told, especially on the battlefield. And that's why you're conditioned that way. Now, why do people struggle so much when they leave the forces from that conditioning? Because they've been conditioned and they've been put in a bubble in such a way that when they actually leave the forces, there is no conditioning to go from the military life to the civilian life. So the things that you would get away with in the military life, you just can't get away with in the civilian life. I found that out firsthand when I came out. I had an argument with a manager in the military. It would have come to fisticuffs. There's no doubts about it. But in civilian life, that cannot happen. I nearly lost my job. I didn't hit him or I didn't strike him, but it was getting that way. And I got told by another manager, "Listen, Andy, you're not in the military anymore. You cannot do that." And that's one of the reasons so many people struggle when they come out, because they've been conditioned. You've been conditioned that your rent comes off your wages, and it's a lot less rent than where you will pay anywhere else. Your gas and electric, it all comes off your wages. You don't pay water rates. That was something that when I got out, I was just, absolutely baffled that Northumbria Water was saying, you owe us 30 odd quid a month for water. I was like, and I phoned them up and I was like, "Mate, are you taking the mick here?" And they were like, "Why?" I said, "It's because water comes out of the sky. Why do I have to pay for that?" But that was because I'd been conditioned to not pay water rates. I'd been conditioned that my gas and electric, my rent come off my wages. And what I was left with after that was my money, and we're all being conditioned. Now, if you go back to the theory of Skinner, Skinner did this experiment, and he did the experiment with rats in a box. Yeah. And this is where it comes down to punishes and rewards. Okay. So the rat was in a box, and what the rat had to do was it had to press a button. Now, if it pressed that button, yeah, it would get rewarded. So it gets a reward, yeah, a piece of food. If it didn't press the button and it just took a piece of food, it would get electric shock. So it was getting a punisher. Surely everyone who's watching this, who's serving the forces, can relate that. The reward was so little in the sense of, you just got something to eat. But the punisher was massive, because the punisher was, you're going to get an electric shock. Over time, during this experiment, Skinner discovered that the rat, he conditioned the rat to be a certain way. So every time the rat wanted some food, before it took the food, it would press the button. Once it pressed the button, it knew it wasn't going to get an electric shock, so it would just take the food. Yeah, people who have served, or people who go into the military, are very much conditioned in the same way. You can imagine being in basic training, and you're getting told, yeah, iron your kit, bull your boots, brush your berry, have a shave, wash your teeth, and you're getting parade, and someone comes around and inspects you with a fine tooth comb, and the reward is you get to stay on parade. However, the punisher is absolutely massive. Yeah, if you've got the slightest crease in the wrong place on your trousers or going down the sleeve of your shirt, then that night you're behind the guard and you're doing short parades, and it's your time that's getting wasted. Yeah, because you've got that crease in the wrong place, or you haven't ironed your clothes properly. That's a massive punisher, an absolutely massive punisher, where the reward for that is you get to stand still. Yeah, very much the same as the rat. The rat, its reward, it just got fed. It could have some food. The punisher was massive. It was going to get like, an electric shock put through its body. So the punisher was massive, and the rewards were so little. And through the military life, that very much goes with what happens in military life, where the fact is that you're being conditioned by the military to be a certain way. You're being conditioned not to argue. You're being conditioned to follow orders, to do as you're told, especially when you get in the battlefield. But the rewards for that are minimal. The punishes, if you don't do as you're told, are massive. I remember, once I was sat in the Rangers in the military, and I just got in and I just sat down and I unclipped my helmet just so I could take a drink of water. Me sergeant. So this was in basic training, actually. The sergeant said, he asked us if I thought I was an American, and I said, no, I'm very much British. And he said to us, he says, do you know what I am? And I was thinking to myself in my mind a few different names. And I was like, no, Sergeant. And he said, I'm the military Royal Signals British Army hammer throw champion of the world. And he took my helmet, did two 12s and threw my helmet. And I had to get down on me hands and knees and let it crawl about 60, 70 meters all the way to the helmet, put the helmet on, fasten it up, then crawl all the way back. That was a massive punisher for doing something so simple as unclipping my helmet just to have a drink. What would have been the reward if I didn't unclip my helmet? I would have been able to sit there. But the punisher was massive. I was let it crawl in 60, 70 meters to go and get my helmet and bring it back again. So this is what I mean about, in the military, where we have rewards, they are very, very minimal, but the punishers are absolutely massive, So you can see how you're conditioned to be a certain way. And if you think about the military career, I served 13 years in the British Army. So if you think about the military career, how often do you get told, just cheer up, stop, men don't cry, and all this sort of stuff. So when you come out and you're struggling with your mental health, that it's that conditioning that you've still got from the military life, where you're scared to ask for the help because it's just not done from the upbringing you have. I was a big strong soldier. I was a big strong airman, sailor, marine, whatever, and we've been conditioned in a way where it's wrong to ask for the help. But actually, now you're in Civvy Street, it's not wrong, it's right, and it's the hardest thing to do, is to come forward and actually ask for the help. And it's because you've had the conditioning from what military life is, but you've had no conditioning to what civilian life is. Your conditioning in the military life is where you work with people, you live with them, you socialise them. There's no conditioning to coming out of that and sitting on your own in a house every night and letting your thoughts actually run overdrive about experiences that you've had, to the point where your mental health is going out of control. And that's where a lot of, unfortunately, substance misuse, alcohol misuse comes in, because they're used as masks to cover that, when it's actually not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to come forward to the likes of East Durham Veterans Trust, for example, and ask for the help and ask for the support. And that's what we want to do, is give as many people the support. But that's all about the conditioning that you've had in life. Like I said, you've had conditioning as a child. You go into the military, you're having conditioning the way they want you to live a life. The conditioning is where you don't speak up, you do as you're told, you follow orders. Yeah. But when you come from that life into civilian life, there's no conditioning to take you from one to the other. And that's why we see so many veterans and veterans families really, really struggling with civilian life. Yeah, wishing they were still back in the military, and so scared to come forward and ask for the help. And that's really, really not the case. Yeah. And that is all about conditioning. And that's what conditioning is. Like I said, it started with a guy called Ivan Pavlov in the late 1800s, and being conditioned to be a certain way. And you still have that in some aspects when you do come out of the military. For example, if you go and work for a company and the company tell you you're starting at 6 a.m. in the morning, then you've got to condition yourself every morning to get up, at 5 o'clock, wash, shaved, everything else. If that's what you do, grab something to eat, get in your car, drive to work. That's all conditioning that you have to be there. So you're conditioning your body. That's when people say, "Oh, my body time clock will wake us up at like 5," because they're so used. Because what you're doing is you're conditioning your body to be like that. Yeah, think of it as like an athlete. An athlete kind of just go, and run 100 meters in 9 seconds. They do lots and lots of training. What they're doing is they're conditioning. They're conditioning themselves. They're conditioning the body. They're living their life in a certain way, all by conditioning. The rewards at the end is absolutely massive for them. Yeah. In the fact that they can go, and win a race and win gold and get lots of money for it. Yeah, they're conditioning themselves to get in a certain way. In the military, it's not quite the same. Yes, you're conditioning yourself all the time, but you're conditioning to a life that they want. A lot of it is screaming and shouting. We don't know how to talk to people when we come out. Yeah, there's another video that we'll do in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to be all around talking to people, and it's called the PAC model, and we'll be talking about that in a lot more depth. But at the moment, we're talking about conditioning, and I just want people to think about watching this video and listening to this on the podcast, what actually conditioning is. And I'm sure you can relate to so many instances in your life where you've been conditioned. You've been conditioned to do something over and over again, where it just becomes part of your life. And that is conditioning. And that's what we've gone through as the human beings. We have been conditioned. And it's not just human beings, it can be animals. You condition your dogs to go outside to have a crap and to weigh and stuff like that. You condition them to eat out of a bowl. You condition them not to go upstairs in your house if you don't want that. You condition them not to jump on the sofa. But think about when you train the dog. When you train the dog and it does a roll over, it lies in its back so you can rub its belly, you reward it, don't you? And that's part of conditioning, remember? Yeah, you reward the dog, you give it a little treat. Now, if it doesn't do it, you don't reward the dog. Yeah, you tell it off. Yeah. That's not rewarding, that's a punisher. Yeah, the dog wants the treat, that's the reward. So over time, once you've trained the dog, it will then go out and do as you're told. Yeah, and that's all about conditioning. So the conditioning that we had in the military is so much different than the conditioning that's in civilian street. And that, in my opinion, in what we've seen at East Durham Veterans Trust over the nearly 4 years we've been doing this now, is why so many people struggle. So many people, when we look at suicide rates, they're so high, it's because people are just scared to come forward and ask for the help, and it's because of conditioning. What we're asking you to do now is just remove that conditioning. If you need the help, please come forward and ask for the help, because we certainly hate to give you an East Durham Veterans Trust. Yeah, and there's other veterans mental health charities out there, and other mental health charities who have got veterans programs that are there to help you and support you and get through them barriers. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Andy, I'm the CEO and I'm the founder of East Durham Veterans Trust. This was episode 1. It was all about conditioning. Episode 2 will be coming up real soon. Thanks very much. Toronto.